continue. Go on. All right then.
We actually play a full song for MCanning's intro just to try and...
Yeah, apparently. Last week they were kind of throwing us some curveballs. They're really long, and plus their audio wasn't working. And I was like, oh, I guess they're back to like the 5-second ones.
Yeah, that was definitely the longest one we've had all day.
I think it is, and it really threw me off. I can hear it this time around. I just assumed though.
Yeah, you just thought it was about to be done.
Yeah, that's my bad.
I was with you.
No, thank you. Anyways, I was gonna say that he's a pretty cool guy, and everyone loves his stream, and he can actually perform very well. But it's not really supposed to be the standard, right? I mean, he even talked about in his interviews last season how he's just like, it is still like streamer perspective for him. He doesn't think he's going to win North America, or even necessarily like focus entirely on getting better. He's not hiding builds, right, by not streaming. He's done that occasionally, I think, like for Nation Wars, for instance. But it's not too common for him. Mm-hmm. So the expectation for many of the other players in North America is that they should win against this guy because he's not putting in like the not just the hours necessarily, because he actually does stream quite a bit. He plays a lot of StarCraft, but just the I guess the strategy, right, and the dedication to a certain line of StarCraft. So I know everyone loves MCanning, but I wonder what it's like when you're a pro and you lose to MCanning, right? You just go like, oh man, kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah. Man, it's definitely that sort of like, oh, I lost to a streamer feeling, right? But hey, at the end of the day, the streamers are kind of good too nowadays. They play a lot of StarCraft on their streams, right? But it's still the idea of like, if you're like really hardcore preparing, right? And you're really taking it super seriously, and the other guys like streaming away, having a good time. I can totally understand that it can be a little bit frustrating to kind of like lose, but I feel like that has that sort of idea has kind of been lost a little bit more the last couple of years compared to like years in the past. Maybe just because we have more pros streaming and stuff more regularly. I don't know.
No, I think you're right about that. I mean, we have at one point been the almost like Brood War. It was like, oh, no revealing secrets, no giving out replays. Try and make sure the casters don't get into lobby because we don't want our replays being sent, And then into this, which is like a lot of people stream, mostly during the off season, which isn't that long anymore with how much DreamHack has going on, but it certainly still happens. And Future's actually one of them. And he's actually been streaming a decent amount on a different platform, though. So I'm not sure if there's actually access for MCanning to go and study him. But I know MCanning also has put a decent amount of thought into his matches. Last season, a couple of times he's just like, no, I had no idea it was going to work. But he did have a plan, right? And it was just like the plan worked, and that surprised me. So I think you can have a strategy specifically against Future. What Future's doing right now is, pretty normal. No like early tank pushes, no surprise cyclones. And actual Phoenix, said hallucination, but it's real. It's going to get in there and scout just the barracks producing. And it is worth noting that MCanning goes for a Phoenix opener, and I guess into Colossus with the gas on the way.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? Very typical kind of way to open very safely while also then getting into like a very standard mid game. But I don't think this is going to... Do you think this is going to turn into anything like a lot of Phoenix Colossus, or do you think it's just going to be the 4 or 5? Because I think it's just going to be like 4 or 5, stay safe, then Colossus into... like fairly regular. I know some people like Goblin, right, go with like they don't stop building Phoenix, right? So I kind of feel it's more just like 4 or 5. I don't know. Like, I don't feel like MCanning's really like a mass Phoenix kind of guy.
I'm with you. I think that of the matchups where he proved that he just has like a standard, like really good style, I think PvT was one of them. PvP is always in a state of flux and experimentation, but for the PvZ last season, I said it like it was kind of like the carriers being a bit of a surprise and people underestimating some of the quicker carry builds and all that good stuff, or underestimating, I guess, MCanning's late game skill with that composition, which I don't think is going to happen here again in this season. But his PvT was actually just some solid PvT and not really too gimmicky. But he is obviously a little bit even better than some people out there when it does come to adding in those disruptors. So right now it is the normal build we see from many other people, but the state of the PvT matchup right now is that you eventually like 3 Colossus into disruptors actually, even before that storm.
Well, as all of our upgrades kick in, I think Future's going to have a bit of an attack up his sleeves, right? Stargate opener, he didn't take any real damage. It definitely always feels that a Terran you can get across and do something here, especially when, this attack should line up with there being like 1 Colossus on the map, maybe seconds on the way. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Future came across and really looked to get some damage done. Even though the third isn't like necessarily super quick or so, at least test the waters, look for the opportunity, see if, you can maybe catch MCanning a little out of position as well. He's already setting up the Viking to maybe come all the way around and drop into the main base mineral line and get some probe kills as he comes with the main army.
Exactly. Exactly the plan. If you get a distraction, fantastic. If you get 6 probes plus, also pretty darn good. And MCanning is going to scout the main push, and he's also going to scout the Viking with a nicely placed pylon. Not exactly totally unexpected for Terrans to do this kind of setup. MCanning's going to get ahead of the push, try and use the ramp to his advantage, his range on the Colossus to his advantage, get a couple of shots. Got to be careful, though. Already going to lose a Stalker.
I mean, there's no extended thermal lance, right? So the range on the Colossus is kind of low, too. But it forces a siege up. It does slow this down. And he lost the Stalker, but not too much else. The Vikings in the main base right now. 2-3 probes already dead. And the Warp in to try and deal with this. As we're going to be seeing the 3 extra probes continue to go down. That's a lot of workers killed already. With these tanks now setting up, Super Battery's been forced really early, Zombie Grub, and I'm a little worried for MCanning, if I'm going to be honest. The Phoenix going to come through for the lift. The Marines try and target down the Phoenix, taking a little longer than I would have hoped for, and the tanks do not get back down on the ground in time, and that actually turns it into a real good cleanup.
It's surprisingly good. That was before +1 was done. It's only just now finishing. That was before extended thermal lance was done. It finished kind of like towards the end of that fight. Surprisingly good. Future did still do some main base damage. Got a couple of probes of that Viking. Have an awkward defense there from MCanning on that aspect, but a really good one on the right side. So Future runs back home, goes back to defending. He's going to build up his Viking count. Still going to produce tanks too. So we're going to have a solid count later on. And MCanning not only adding on that charge, but also very quickly into that Dark Shrine.
Back down through the center now. Future going to move over the left-hand side as we got Dark Shrine setting up. I like that Future's trying to be a bit aggressive, but it's going to be an Adept that sees it. So MCanning is going to get a catch, and it's a good catch, of course.
But that was such a weird drop, wasn't it? Like that was
a bit of everything, like too many medevacts for how many units there were.
Yeah, and you almost never want to bring a tank with a drop unless you're actually doing like a Doom drop, something that's supposed to stay somewhere. So that was weird. But better to unload it when he did than have it caught by Phoenix. Over in the dead space would have been quite problematic. He's going to reposition, just kind of make it look like it was a push anyways. I meant to push, I didn't mean to drop. But it's still such a small army that it's very deceiving. It looks like it's supposed to be a single medevac's worth of stuff. It's that distraction drop. And yet it is so much the Terran army, actually.
Yeah. This is Future trying to dance around this bottom side, but MCanning has really turned it up a little bit. I mean, obviously that Viking did a lot in the main, but otherwise his defense has been pretty on point. I like it, just stopping really Future from finding any opportunity to get in anywhere. And Future going to drop the Ghost Academy already, so he's getting ready to go for those ghosts. I don't disagree, actually. I mean, Disruptors coming out. EMPs on Disruptors are so good because it makes them so much easier to target fire down. What is great for MCanning is that he's going to start his own harassment with those DTs.
Is it perfectly timed? He doesn't see the shimmer with that. The DT already heading into the natural and to the third. Scans ahead and sees actually not that large of an army, but still kind of intimidating with the high ground. DT harassment, actually third base not going to go so hot. Natural goes a little bit better, but is ultimately cleaned up, and now Future can focus entirely on the main push. A decent number of Vikings. Disruptor not going to get a shot. 2 more shots are left, though, and a third Disruptor as well. I think MCanning can hold, but the supplies are quite scary.
Gonna see another Disruptor shot. A couple of Marauders do get connected onto. Tank still setting up here from Future as well, down on the bottom side. This is definitely scary. Here comes the Zealot flank, though, going to come in and obviously takes a tank shot or 2 away initially. Now the Disruptor shot goes in, lands on Bio. There's a couple tanks remaining, and the Vikings show up midway through. I think Future just has a little bit too much, perhaps. Disruptor shot going to try and save the day. Needs to get rid of that Colossus. Finally gets there. Is there enough Bio? It's a lot of Disruptors. It's scary, right? Because if you land the Vikings and the Disruptors are still active, kind of just throwing away those units that you might still need. So it feels like this was good for Future. It just felt like it wasn't as clean or as easy as I thought it was going to be. I actually thought he was going to do a lot better there initially.
I wonder about MCanning actually taking that fight at all. It felt like he could buy a lot more time, wait for like more reinforcements, wait for the Phoenix to get involved. And while the setup was fantastic, I love the Zealots coming in from the back. It just seemed like he was pulling the trigger too fast when he actually had time. Actually, like it's so much scarier for the Terran in 7 seconds, but it gets a little bit scarier for the Protoss, But it's it is what it is. Now MCanning's almost half the supply. He's about to have better upgrades. His future has stopped upgrades completely. Also, he got a Ghost Academy, but then no ghosts. So Disruptor is definitely going to be difficult to snipe, especially in these high numbers, but the splits are looking pretty good. The Concave is looking pretty good, and Future is still threatening that 4th base.
The problem is it's just Disruptors, right? So yeah, it's keeping Future pushed back, but you can't push him back forever. And this army on the left side was obviously going to get the 4th base eventually. So Future picks up that. The only thing great for MCanning right now, you could say, is maybe the fact he's got an upgrade lead. He's going to get DT caught. The other one gets away for the moment. It's only going to cost him a second scan, though. And that's now 2 dead DTs. So again, no further harassment, and Future can continue to focus fully on the forward attacks.
If he is going to be scared of disruptors, he could start adding in just drops or liberators. Like, he's got so much room. He's got flexibility. He can even just continue to throw away units and try and get good concave. So that's really how he wants to play. Even tanks aren't so bad to help against those disruptors, right? It looks like MCanning's going to try and pounce on an unsuspecting Future. Future, though, he's going to lose his tanks, yes, but still saves the majority of his bio. Decent splits. I think we're running out of shots to the disruptors. He has 7 of them, but I think there's 5 just firing.
DTs again, some damage done, zombie growth. There's 2 of them at it, and that's 20 workers dead. Future, now more than ever, maybe needs to get something done, and MCanning looks to run into the fight. He's going to chase this down, blinking forward. Those Vikings, remember, aren't doing anything unless they decide to land, which they will do off to the side, which kind of keeps them protected and maybe lets them get some good damage done. I think MCanning's kind of holding on 2-2 against 1-1 at the moment in the upgrade department. And with all of that worker damage, he might be down a base, but he's up a good amount of work, because I guess 11 isn't that crazy when you think about the mules, though. Future's rebuilding back up already, and it felt like maybe there was an opportunity or some hope there for MCanning.
You know, it was a really important part of momentum. He actually got some momentum back. I mean, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but he definitely stopped Future's momentum. He had to consider going back home and dealing with that. He eventually had to pull back anyways because he lost a lot of his army. And now MCanning can at least breathe a little bit and try and get a 4th base up, and maybe, I mean, honestly, even try and sneak in a 5th base. You know, it's not something he can afford willy-nilly, but it might be worth the risk, especially because Disruptor count has stayed pretty strong. 8 disruptors, that's a really good number, and you don't really need necessarily to go up to any more, but he is. And maybe he needs to go up to more now because you got a little bit of a base trade going on. No, Future does have a decent army back at home, although getting less decent. Disruptors actually take out 2 of those tanks. Planetary is going to fall. MCanning's going to lose his 3rd base back at home, but this is those weird situations where now if the Terran is going too fast, a Disruptor shot could really change things. This one will not grab the army, though. Their Nexus is going to die. And that leaves MCanning on maybe 3 left over. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think Future should try and maybe run up into this natural. You're going to see a couple of Zealots open in. I mean, look at what he can find here. Disruptor actually does just get out. I mean, honestly, there's so many good targets, right? The Robos, the Nexus, the Probes. I don't blame. It feels like Future doesn't quite know what he wants to get himself, and I don't blame him. There's just so much to pick from. Loses 1 medevac, but 3 full medevacs are going to get out alive. Shouldn't really stop any further. There's going to be a Stalker blink in. Medevac gets out of there. So
imagine
3 bases against 3 bases.
Saved any Phoenix. He's actually building one right now. I mean, that's going to be good for scouting, I suppose. But yeah, you're right. It's 3 bases versus 3. It's really not so bad. And while a lot of probes died, it pretty much just not quite evened them up because, again, mules, right? But I mean, this is a bit of a scrappy game. Actually mining pretty similarly right now. Army supplies are very similar. Upgrades are actually in favor of MCanning, plus disruptors don't really care about that, and there's still 10 disruptors. So that's a good count.
Yeah. No, it's MCanning really is turning this game around a little bit, isn't he? A Bioforce back on the map here from Future. It's still kind of like, in theory, I like Future's army. A tank count is good, etc. But it's those disruptors, and MCanning just has a way to make them work really well. Even though it's almost purely disruptor, he's been kind of making it work. Let's see what Future can do if you can get into a really dangerous siege position. If these tanks leapfrog forward a bit more toward the natural, then MCanning pretty much has to fight into it. But that's going to be where it's scary. He's actually just going to go right now. The disruptors get destroyed by the tanks. The target fire was good initially. I mean, that was what I was talking about almost. It's going to be hard to really do much there. And Future showed us why.
I don't think he knew about those tanks, man. It's going to be hard to reach them with the disruptors. It's going to be hard to actually have the disruptors survive with that many tanks firing upon them. And that might have been too fatal of a blow. I mean, he was mostly disruptors. He's down to 6, which is still a pretty good count, but it's not much else. And he's even lost his positioning on his naturals. That's where all of his production is. His Dark Shrine, his double Robo has been depowered. Scans are available, so the DTs coming in are just trying to win in a face, they're actually trying to face the army as opposed to being hidden like they're supposed to be, and that didn't work out too well. Future maybe still not feeling super comfortable because it is MCanning. It is someone who has disruptors and DTs, but he should have this game.
Here you go for yourself on the top side. Disruptor shot's gonna fire in, hits on the tank. The problem is there's only disruptors left, and obviously at this point, you just can't use the disruptors to dodge forever, because eventually the bio will just get, dodge out the way, get closer and closer, run them into a corner, and then you're just going to collapse in and clean it out, as MCanning does not have enough. But boy, did he put up a decent effort. I mean, he was kind of dying early as well, especially, and he really took the game and made it playable. The DT harass finally got through. He got that push on the 4th base. He made it close when Future otherwise had a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, it actually even wasn't a terrible start, towards the beginning where not much was happening. That Colossus cleanup on the tank push was surprisingly good, but it did start to spiral out of control afterwards, and it really was those DTs that even managed to bring it back. I feel like if he had just known about those tanks, he's got Zealots on the top side, which he tried to do later on, but it was too late. And then maybe pulls his disruptors down south of his army, and it's still a game that's ongoing, but as good as MCanning is in those situations, the really scrappy situations, the ones you're like, well, you can't come back unless you get that one disruptor shot, and then he does get that disruptor shot. You never want to bank on it. If only he had played like a game to save his 4th and actually had 20 charge lots to support him, or even 15 stalkers, it would have been such a better looking army.
Yeah, no, it was like almost just purely disruptors, right? That was the issue, and it just didn't quite have the stable damage output to really take a fight, or even like you said, I even think trading out a couple of the disruptors for actual like more fighty units might have been good as well. Either way, Future just come out with that 1-0 lead, and looking good here. Future will enter game number 2. We're going into Oxide CG. I mean, to me, this one is all. I look at the ledges and the rocks on this map, and I'm like, ooh, siege tanks, right? Pushes are so powerful. It's difficult because those tanks can hide around corners. More difficult for the pros to get on top of it. Definitely something to watch here as we jump into game number 2.
I also feel like this is one of the few times you've seen Oxide. Am I mistaken? I feel like I haven't said that word today.
Yeah, it's not a super common one, right?
Guess not.
Roddy was telling me that this is like Pillars of Gold V2, but I don't know. I feel like the middle is so different that it doesn't feel like that at all.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I kind of guess I see where it's coming from on the bases, but, well, anyways. In the top right of Oxide, he is the blue Protoss, MCanning.
And he's taking on in the bottom left our red Terran from Alpha X. It is Future.
Couple fights could have definitely gone better for MCanning, but then Future probably kicking himself over letting those DTs even start the comeback. He's doing such a great job dealing with them from the get-go, cleaning up some of the the 3rd or 4th one that came around. It was like the 5th one that finally started doing a lot of damage. That might make him a little more passive, just like a tiniest little bit more, wait for that planetary to finish, right? Wait until you have missile turrets up and you have the economy to afford that too. Which could severely change the game, but I guess there's only so many ways you can account for that. DTs sometimes just going to get in and do damage no matter how hard you try to not let them.
Well, as we set up on Oxide, I wanted to see some exciting stuff from MCanning here. I feel like last game, the Phoenix, they weren't super active or anything, right? They kind of were pretty chill until it came to the push. I wouldn't mind seeing him kind of do something that gives him a little bit more activity early on, as we have some easy peasies thrown down on the natural.
Well, it was in response to, I guess, the main base, good luck, have fun. MCanning, certainly a master of the sprays. So I like they brought the Phoenix. It does feel like they were a little underused, so they did a great job with the first tank push, and that's fantastic. But as far as harassment goes, and really very much. And then as far as the next fight, I think the one that really determines the momentum in that game, the one that was around the third base, around the corner, where he maybe didn't have to engage when he did, it feels like they were supposed to be there too. And what I saw was them coming in a little bit late.
Yeah.
Plus, they'd already, a couple of them had already been killed. So I definitely could have seen that going better. And then, yeah, imagine if they were alive to chase down those 3 medevacs, right? They're not units to be undervalued. There's a reason that Roddy likes them a lot, and why his team logo is a phoenix, and why Goblin uses them a lot. They can be very powerful, very helpful. It's going to be something entirely different this game anyways. MCanning going for a Twilight Council first.
Yeah, I like it though, right? I like it changing up a bit. While the Phoenix were great for the tank push, I do feel like if he's not confident to make them used a bit more, then maybe just move away from them. Twilight Council up, get that Blink early in the game. And Blink's a great way of getting map controlling things here. There it is. Blink will start up. I mean, obviously, that's just a big expectation. Don't think it's really a great map to go like 4-gate Blink on or anything along those lines. So just expect this to be 2 or 3 gates into maybe a fast third. We've seen the Robo Bay early quite a lot lately. And the fact that he obviously wanted to go qualify last time, maybe we see like a little bit of just Blink 3-gate into Colossus.
Yeah, I think we're going to be waiting on the gas geysers to kind of tell us which direction he'll take it. I mean, I think most of us think of MCanning as a robo guy, Colossus and Disruptors, but I don't think that means he can't play into something like Blink Zealot, or even something really cheeky like a Forgeless attack, really trying to overpower Future's first push, especially if he's going to be like, oh, Future, you're a tank guy, and I want to bop that really easily. But as far as what Future is doing, it is a Raven opener. He's got a really great scout into the main base. He's going to count the number of gateways, make sure he's not being all-in. And then he would love to get a sight on that third Nexus, which is exactly what's going to happen. Excellent Hellion.
Yep, really, really good. I mean, doesn't really get much better than that. How often do you get to see like the entirety of the Protoss base from main through third? It's not super common for sure, so... Yeah, that's pretty nice. It is a fast third as well, so obviously I'm not quite correct on my call of maybe seeing something like faster Colossus. So yeah, maybe we do actually start to see something a little bit more as the gateway. So yeah, Blink and then charge, and maybe even no Forge and aggression, CG. I kind of like that call actually.
Well, they still don't have natural gases, so I'm starting to feel like more inclined toward it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because usually by now you'd at least be thinking like, okay, Forge and like charge at the same time, so I take a third gas. But yeah, like I'm with you. This is a lot of gateways coming down very quickly. Good call. I like it. I'm believing. There's an Immortal on the way, but you can add an Immortal into this. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely, you can. I do think that's going to be a little bit weirder than maybe MCanning was hoping. So I think, ideally the Terran player is like, I'm just going to do my thing, and I'm going to move out with like my tank push. And you're like, aha, gotcha. That would be like the best case scenario, because then the immediate counter is like really strong. But even if it's not that, it still is something that should surprise Future. Future should still do a push, unless he's already picked up on this, which I'm not sure he really has information to do so. And that push could still be easily like pushed back, and then it leads into some really great aggression. But with Future, I mean, yeah, I think he will do the push, yeah. MCanning might be thinking already like, okay, not have to worry about the tank push, moving on to better things here, going up into Colossus, still pushing off that Forge though. So it's going to be like a lot of units, but not terribly great units.
Stalker's going to see this Bioforce coming, and he's going to snipe a couple of units down, doing what these Stalkers are meant to do. Forces a stim pack, anything like that, drain a medevac energy, force this army to slow down a little bit. These are all wins. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is those Stalkers are now very out of position. They've not led the bio army across the map, getting damaged along the way. So they're a little out of position. And kind of split off to the side there. Hits the interference matrix from the Raven onto the Immortal. So that's taken out of the game right away. Widowmine shots a beautiful zombie grub, and all of a sudden I don't feel so hot for MCanning's army.
Yeah, that Raven looked like it was absolutely just going to go for some auto turret harassment, but to actually take the Immortal out of the equation was quite nice. Also really messes with the AI on that. But I think you were also spot on about how the Blink Stalkers weren't really used to the best of their ability. They can really start picking things off, and then they drag the Terran army basically back into 20 Zealots. And also they're supposed to take out the Widowmines. We're being, super detailed in the process here. Usually the Widowmines are gone because of the Stalkers. So that was definitely not the start that MCanning was hoping for. so far not really benefiting off of the delayed upgrades. And in fact, as he loses another good chunk of Zealots, man, that was really bad. He's just not even going to have that many units. And already I was saying how his units might be plentiful, but weak, and now it's just not even plentiful. Future just drops right into the main base. Still has his Raven alive and take that high ground concave, burrow his Widow Mines, and how does MCanning actually push up this one? Disruptor's going to try and help out. Takes up a single Widow Mine, that's it. But the rest of the army is here, and actually Disruptor eventually got a good shot.
Good defense. He's going to catch the medevac. Does he have a blink down? He does. He's not in range of the medevac, but he can still chase. So it's getting into a bit of an awkward space. Looks like he lost track of it. So medevac survives, but you know, not so bad. I mean, you still get the Raven. He cleaned up a lot in that drop anyway. That was a pretty big win for MCanning. So cleans that up, and now he's like, okay, maybe I should think about some upgrades. And you know, the fact that this game is going to go on a little while. So he drops the double forge down, and okay, you know, double forge down. The only thing is probe count is obviously 60. You know, at this point, he maybe needs to think about a 4th base as well, just because that Terran economy is looking really good on 3 bases right now. And MCanning could just do with being ready to kind of, especially as you take those gases up, your next few probes don't have anywhere to go to. So 4th base maybe on the horizon, and then he's really looking golden, I think.
And that high ground disruptor might not have gotten like too much, but it did force Future to the left and to really bulk up, right?
Yeah.
So that was a better cleanup than I thought it was going to go. And I guess it also is worth noting that when you look at that supply, but they're like trying to drop, right? That wasn't actually like all of Future supply, where it was clearly going to be all of MCanning's defensively. That was a great way to get back into the game after a couple of unfortunate earlier losses, but you're talking about that 4th base that is finally on the way. We'll see if you can keep that alive. And those upgrades are going to take a little while to actually, you know, finish. They are recently started, giving Future a lot of flexibility. He might even still be ahead in 2-2. I know it was pretty late last game, but we'll see what happens here. Blinking aggressively forward to take care of a couple of Liberators. Widow Mine's also taken out thanks to the Disruptor. An okay start right now. All Future, you know, he could just go up to the top left and get that quick cancel, but he really wants to move into this 3rd base.
Yeah, he doesn't know about the base, right? So he should really check it, though. Like, it's not an absurd thing to have. So yeah, I would feel like we just kind of, I don't want to say he's messing up, right? But it's so easy to go check, and now Marauder's going to move down there. So he's going to say that is an easy cancel. That's a 4th base denial for sure. Maybe MCanning tries to contest it. He's going to go for it. Blinks in. Widow Mines are going to do well on the Stalkers. Now on a few Zealots as well. At the very least, Future's going to get the cancel here and then maybe escape away down the side. He is not. He's just going to run. I guess that base is quite tucked away up the top left. He is going to try and drop the main, but there's a Zealot that's already seen it, so has to slow down a little bit. We'll kill off this pile, and instead, yeah, this was not as successful for Future as I thought it might be.
Yeah, his armor is getting awfully low, so I think he actually did have to run away from that left side.
Yeah,
as tempting as that was, especially with his upgrade lead. Now it's going to disappear. And while he could start his 2-2 immediately, his armory recently finished. It's still, you know, it's a drastic difference in what it could have been. That said, Future does have EMPs available, and I mean, I was going to say some Vikings, but actually he doesn't have any Vikings. So really he just has Bio EMP. Those Colossus, as long as they're always in proper positioning, is going to be really hard to tear down. Future's going to be a really good concave. I'm actually kind of liking MCanning's position more and more. It looks like Future is more and more all in on 3 bases. Whereas MCanning has his 4th base actually up and running and has this Colossus technology that is going to be difficult for Future to break through, especially if he continues attacking into a choke. I mean, that's just where MCanning's going to thrive.
No, for sure. Future's going to back away here, work through some rocks, and still look to set up an attack. Very quickly, just a quick announcement to everyone that we were originally going to have Namshar Neeb on the main stream. It is going to be starting on the B stream instead because we're behind schedule. So if you want to catch Namshar Neeb, check out the B stream. Don't sit around here waiting for it, because it won't be here.
There you go. Yep.
And from that, we go back into MCanning Future as big drop into the main base is going to bring the hype levels right back up here. He just dropped straight in on top of everything in this. Super battery forced already. He can just lift up and get out. Then he can fight elsewhere with the super battery already being used. It's obviously a big win. Sentries are going to get EMP to begin with here. The disruptor shot starts to chase away. Awkward fight for Future as his full medevacs have just sat still. Stalkers don't find a chance to capitalize on it just yet, but they're still not loading.
That took a long time. I think he was controlling a left side army. It was looking for maybe a surround or a quick pick off on the 3rd base, but it actually just ended up being a liability as he had to control that and then perhaps miscontrolled his medevacs. Gonna lift up the 4 medevacs, one of them very, very injured, and go back into the main base. I think he scanned, realized it was an observer of his army. He scans to say, okay, where is your army? Doesn't see it. Now sees it with the Widow Mines and scans the main as well. Lots of scans going down, basically giving them full information that the main is in fact open. But is this really going to be a worthwhile drop? The Colossus is still here, the army is still weak, and the medevacs are still dangerously close to dying.
I'm going to say yes, because look at the army on the left side, and obviously MCanning is super out of position to deal with this. Going to need a recall probably to realistically save this base. There's no energy though, which means you get straight in. That should be a kill. Surely you don't not get this now as maybe if he doesn't target fire. Okay, finally gets it. Now starts to back away. Got dangerously close. Couple extra Widow Mine shots are good for some extra damage. And that drop ZG is still lurking around the edges of the main.
Yeah, that was a very powerful maneuver there too, especially because what he saw was MCanning in kind of the more middle of the map with his Widow Mines. And just, I guess, really correctly predicted that MCanning would send his entire army to the main. So actually just a big slip up there from MCanning not to have anything defending on the left side. And that's actually also another point about Oxide in particular, is that it is so far away if you don't have a good split. Future takes advantage for now, but still has trouble against the main armies. Can have splits. He's got a concave, actually. Ooh, here could be a good fight. He's not going to take it. He's going to still continue to avoid the main fights, or no, now he's going to take it. It's actually kind of awkward. A concave.
Yeah.
The disruptors can't really get a good shot. The Colossus aren't really that helpful. From the backside, there's also another fight happening, and that is going to grab a Colossus, disrupting the rest of the Stalkers, and both sides just went so poorly for MCanning.
Yeah, that's so sad. First I'm like, oh my god, Future's like kiting back into more disruptors. I'm like, but he's got an army there too. He cancels these forges and he's going to get in the natural. Man, this bio army is the definition of autumn. Orange, yellow, red health bars across the board. It is so beat up. The medevacs are drained of energy and it's running into the main base to maybe put some finishing touches on this game, because at the moment it doesn't look like MCanning is going to be able to really calm this down. And even when he catches it up, he's going to just lift up. Future's going to leave, and then, you know, you're out of there. He loses one full medevac, a second empty one. But now you're out of here. You've done a lot. You shut down production. You go home, and maybe you get a chance to heal up before you get to go again.
You know, I wouldn't even mind if MCanning stopped on those upgrades. There's a lot of things going well for MCanning until that fight. I mean, one, he had Colossus against the Vikings, which doesn't matter if there's such a huge concave. Two, he had a superior economy until the fourth Nexus died. And three, he had better upgrades, and he still actually does. Future was just entirely all in on the bio idea. You know, just out-positioning his opponent, getting concaves, getting snipes, and only, so, you know, losing a couple medevacs here and there, but he even stopped producing ghosts, man.
Yeah.
And he only recently got his fourth up. Like, MCanning, it's going to be a frustrating loss. He's going to look back at this game and be like, oh, I had so many leads, and it just was all about keeping my army alive.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. I think it was just... It's such a stressful style to play against. It's so hard to make the right calls when you're like, oh my god, there's like, you know, a drop here, there's a drop there, and then you're like, well, I guess I better fight this, right, to make sure this doesn't happen again. And obviously that big fight went badly for him, but yeah, you're completely spot on. It's exactly a case of MCanning just needed to not die, which is obviously like obvious, but like if you keep that army alive, Future is naturally going to fall off in this game because of the style that he's playing, no further upgrades and all the rest of it. And MCanning just couldn't hold it together, as right now comes across for a pretty good counter, but there are units on the way back, and it's going to be a almost full surround from Future to maybe try and kill off this final MCanning army.
Yeah, Future's going to be coming in with a great surround, but down in upgrades and maybe some disruptor magic. Maybe, but that is the best case scenario for Future. Disruptors not getting the fantastic shots they really need to win this game, to win this battle. This is going to be it. MCanning's army is corralled into a corner, no place to escape, and that has got to be tap out time. He doesn't even have production back at home, actually. His robos got denied by a little drop. GG.
Nothing left at all.